Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Melanie. This is Adventures in Hostessville, and welcome to the Vintage Magazine Project. This is the final episode of 2021, and today we are looking at the December 1890 Ladies' Home Journal. Ba-da-bum, ba-dum-bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So the article I want to take a look at today is called Christmas Greens and Christmas Giving, and specifically I am looking at Dressing a Christmas Tree by Mrs. A.G. Lewis. As you may remember from last month's episode, I'm not living in my own place right now. I am currently staying in my sister's basement, and all of my things, including all of my Christmas things, are in storage. So instead of having all of my life's memories around me, I'm going to start from the ground up making a Victorian Christmas tree, which frankly is something I've basically wanted to do since I was about 8 years old anyway. So Mrs. A.G. Lewis says the first thing to note is that a Christmas tree ought to be selected with special reference to the space it is to occupy. So I've got this sort of smaller Christmas tree. You can see here, he's pretty short and comes in this patently un-Victorian Christmas tree holder. So you'll notice that this tree has like all of these tree parts, branches on the top, and then there are these sort of row branches down at the bottom, and then this big gap in the middle where nothing is really happening. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do, and I hope Mrs. A.G. Lewis would approve, is I'm going to trim these lower branches off, and I can use them to deck my halls with or something, and then make it sort of more uniform looking. Christmas trees, as you may know, are sort of a German invention. The Germans are pretty awesome when they are not starting world wars. And Christmas trees are brought to America by a lot of German immigrants. But the first president to put up a tree in the White House officially is Benjamin Harrison, and the year that he did that was his first year in office, 1889. So when this magazine comes out in 1890, it is like nothing but Christmas trees and information about Benjamin Harrison, which is great, especially if you, like me, have gone your whole life knowing virtually nothing about Benjamin Harrison. If you'd asked me before I started researching this episode, hey, what did Benjamin Harrison do? I would have said he was a president, and I think he had whiskers. I'm just going to take this old piece of curtain that no one is using, kind of wrap it around here to disguise the intensely plasticness of this tree stand. Look at that. It's practically Linus's blanket. Okay, so Mrs. A.G. Lewis, what do you say next? The upper branches should be decorated before the tree is set up in case they are too tall to be reached by stepladders. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So the next thing that Mrs. Lewis says that I should do is tie upon the tips of the boughs white cotton batting snowballs. Great, buddy. Buddy, what are you doing? Okay, so if, like me, your knowledge of Benjamin Harrison would not fill a tiny, tiny teacup, here are a few fun facts about him. He only served one term, which is not uncommon. But what is less common is that he was defeated for his second term by the same person that he had defeated for the presidency, because he was sandwiched in between the two terms of our only non-consecutive president, Grover Cleveland. But in that one term, he got quite a bit done. He actually admitted more states to the Union than any other president. He admitted 6 states. He also appointed 4 Supreme Court justices, which seems like a lot in 4 years, doesn't it? He, unfortunately, right after this magazine comes out, this is December of 1890, and in late December of 1890, the massacre at Wounded Knee happens, which is one of the ugliest blots on our country's history. He passed the Sherman antitrust law that was during his period, and he also managed to take a gigantic federal surplus and more or less get rid of it. Oh, he's also the grandson of William Henry Harrison, who was president for like 12 minutes at some point. He is the guy that gave that like incredibly long inaugural speech out in poor weather and then got sick and died like 30 days into office. His great-grandfather, Benjamin Harrison V, I believe, was a founding father and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Does this look like snow at all? What do you think, buddy? Does this look like snow? Come up here and tell me. Does it look like snow, or does it just look like wads of cotton? So the chances that Benjamin Harrison personally put up the first Christmas tree in the White House are kind of slim. It is far more likely that it was his wife, Caroline Harrison. And if, like me, you don't know much about Benjamin Harrison, then the chances are good that, like me, you don't know squat about Caroline Harrison. It seems that Buddy, like me, is not 100% sold on the cotton balls on the tree just yet. But that's okay, we're just getting started. And the next thing that Mrs. Lewis says that I should do is add strings of cranberries and short loops of popped corn, which somehow, and I know it boggles the mind, but somehow I have never done that before. Okay, so Caroline Harrison seems like I said, like she was all right. When she became First Lady, she and the president had been married for 40 years already at that point. They had 2 adult children. They had one other daughter who had died in infancy, and she was very domestic. So she actually wanted to tear down the White House and build something new, which, like, fair. At this point, the White House is 100 years old. It's not in great shape, and it's infested with rats and termites. So that's great. Yeah, come on. There you go. So Congress declined to have her start from scratch. They're like, yeah, no, we're going to keep this one, but we will let you update it. And in fact, it was during that presidency that it was first outfitted with electricity. And word on the presidential biography street is that they liked the electricity, but they were kind of scared of it. They didn't like working the light switches because they were scared they would be electrocuted. So if there was no one there to turn the lights off, they would just sleep with the lights on. She was also a very accomplished china painter. She actually taught china painting classes while she was at the White House. She also was the first President General of the Daughters of the American Revolution. She was instrumental in raising funds for the medical school at Johns Hopkins, but with the caveat that they had to accept female students. So that is cool. And this is very fun and exciting, but it's going to take a long time, and I don't have that many more Caroline Harrison facts, so bear with me. I'm just going to finish these real quick. Okay, I think if I sort of really space them out, then there's enough cranberries. It's going to have to be, because that's all the cranberries I've got. Oh, that looks pretty. That looks pretty. Okay, time to put on the popped corn. Okay, I know I should be... I know I should be cooking this popcorn over a fire in a kettle or something, but I don't have a fire. So I'm just going to do it in this microwave. Okay, this isn't going to be quite as easy as the cranberries because the popcorn is not quite as sturdy, but we'll see what we can do. So Caroline is not the only person that comes with Benjamin Harrison to the White House when he is inaugurated as president. Is this very interesting to you? Caroline's father at this point is 90 years old, and he is understandably sort of frail, and travel being not as easy as it is now, she sort of rightly assumes that if he doesn't come with them to the White House, she will never get to see him again. So her father moves in with them, Benjamin Harrison's father-in-law, but he has been living, the father-in-law, with Caroline's sister, Elizabeth. So now they're like, well, we got to bring Elizabeth along too. Well, they're also living with Elizabeth's daughter, Mary Dimmock, who is in her early 30s. She's also a widow. She had been married at the age of 23, and it was only about 3 months before her husband died. The Harrisons' kids come as well. So like I said, they have 2 children, Russell and Mary. Everyone in this story has the same 3 names. Everybody, it seems, is either Russell or Benjamin or Mary, which makes things sort of confusing. But the Harrison's daughter, Mary, goes by Mamie. So we'll call her that, and the niece is Mary Dimmock. So Mamie, the daughter, and her husband come, and they've got 2 children who are named Benjamin and Mary. Well, baby Benjamin is just called Baby McKee, and then Mary is Mary Lodge McKee. The Harrisons' son, Russell, also moves in. He's married, and he's got a daughter named Marthena. So Baby McKee and Mary Lodge McKee, those 2 babies, are only about 1.5 years apart in age, and Marthena is right in between. So there's just this whole little clan of cousin toddlers. So all in all, it's 11 people with about 4 names between all of them who move into the White House. And it's probably kind of a hassle sometimes, but I think for the most part, the press, and especially everybody in Harrison's own party, is really thrilled that these grandkids are there because they make it seem like he is a human. Benjamin Harrison apparently is not known for warmth or personality. And in fact, his nickname, well, okay, one of his nicknames, his main nickname is Little Ben, because he is only 5'6". But his other nickname is the Human Iceberg. Okay, so I have been stringing popcorn onto thread for approximately 2.5 months, it feels like. It's very sort of tedious because popcorn breaks a lot when you put it on there. And it seems like in the future, this would be a really good activity for like a group of friends coming over and sitting around the fire and singing carols and drinking cocoa and martinis or whatever, that kind of thing. However, it does look pretty jolly, and I'm pretty excited about it. But we're not done because Mrs. Lewis has a few other things that we are supposed to put on this tree. And the next thing that she says is that we should add glittering ornaments, etc., etc. Okay, so other sort of Victorian era periodicals that I have read have suggested making ornaments out of pasteboard. I don't have any pasteboard. I do, however, have this spaghetti box that I found in our recycling. Okay, so whether or not the kids actually really liked their grandpa, which I have no reason to believe that they didn't, but it seems like it probably was pretty awesome to be a kid in the White House. And in fact, back on page 15 of the Ladies' Home Journal, on the children's page, right next to this story about this Chinese boy who becomes a king, there is an article called The White House Children. And they've got their pictures there. You can see there is Mary Lodge McKee looking supremely disgruntled, honestly. And then Benjamin Harrison McKee, who is baby McKee, there down on the bottom. But they also talk about Christmas at the White House being super fun, and that they had this Christmas breakfast, that all the kids were invited to this like fancy kids breakfast, and the president himself waits on their table and he dresses up as Santa, and that every toy inventor sends a sample of their invention to the White House because, you know, if the president's grandkids like your toy, it's probably going to be successful. Yeah, that's glitter. And there's a story of the president giving an address at Navy Yard about something, and he's not paying attention to Baby McKee, and Baby McKee starts to howl because he's like, I'm supposed to be the center of attention. The president apparently just picks him up and holds him in one arm and keeps orating with the other hand. Unfortunately, his happy family life in the White House isn't going to last forever. Okay, I've got my ornaments almost all on, my glitter ornaments. I ended up making these little glitter half moons because I didn't have as much pasteboard as I thought, and I also didn't have as much glitter as I thought, so I have to hang them carefully because if I don't, you can still see the nutrition information of the spaghetti on the back of there, which is really quite alarming. But I think that they look really cute, actually. And class up the joint a little bit. Take a dozen, more or less, packages of gilt and silver fringe. These are sold at $1 per dozen. Spread the fringe to ornament as much space as possible and cover lightly the front and sides of the tree with it. Okay, so I did get some icicles. They are, in fact, $1 for one package, not for a dozen. And this is the only icicles I could find. I went to multiple stores and finally at Target they had this one package and they are gold. So I don't have gold and silver, I only have gold. And I was surprised because to me, these are usually silver, but that might be because I bought a package of silver ones the first year I moved to New York, which was 1999, and I have been picking them off of my trees and reusing them ever since. Things aren't going well. The Republicans aren't even actually really sure that they want to rerun him again, but they don't really have anybody else. Instead, the Democrats are going to run Grover Cleveland again, who ran last time, and this makes for a real lackluster campaign. The American public is kind of like, we did this 4 years ago with these exact same two guys. And they also don't do a lot of campaigning because Caroline Harrison is very sick. Now, she has always been kind of frail and sickly, as they say, but in 1892, she contracts tuberculosis, or consumption, as they called it at the time, and there really isn't anything they could do about it. And she ends up dying in October, like October 25th, I think, of 1892, which is like a couple of weeks before the election. 11 Harrisons came into the White House and far fewer leave because not only has Caroline died, but her mother has died, her sister Elizabeth has died, which has left Mary Dimmock just sort of there alone and with nothing to do because she had sort of been serving as her aunt's social secretary just to kind of give her a job. Mamie, the Mary that's the daughter that goes by Mamie, she's still there with her family and she takes over and assumes the duties of First Lady for her dad for those last few months from when her mother dies in October until the end of the term, which at that point was in March. But then the Harrison administration is over and Benjamin Harrison goes back to Indiana and takes up law practice. And you might think just spends a lot of time with the grandkids and the kids, except he doesn't, because very soon he does something that makes his daughter decide to cut him out of their life forever. Okay, we are finally at the last step of dressing the Christmas tree, and you will notice that I am outside now. In fact, maybe you can't see it because it's dark out. It was definitely still daytime before I started stringing popcorn. When everything is nicely arranged, take a liberal quantity of frost powder. So I Googled frost powder. Currently, frost powder is something that you buy from movie companies in Dubai so that they can create an outdoor winter scene in the desert. That's not what I want. But I did find something that said You could use crushed glass. So I'm going to use this molasses jar. I think it was House Beautiful from 1909 said that I could crush this bottle with my garden roller. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to use my car. All right, now because I think that it is probably best not to purposely crush a whole bunch of glass in the driveway of my sister's house, I'm going to tie it up in this triple bag. Okay, here I am. I'm putting this behind my car wheel. That might crush it. I don't know. It's also very wet down here because it's raining, even though it's December. The world might be coming to an end. I'm going to back over this now. Bye. Okay, it looks, oh, it's not crushed at all. It didn't get crushed because there's this lip right here that it just fit right in. Ooh, that smashed it. Okay. Maybe this was a better idea. It's also enormously satisfying. I'm gonna try rolling the car over it again. I can't get at it. Which bag is it inside? It's in this bag. Oh. I wonder if I should have taken the label off. First, there's just little chunks all over that say Brer Rabbit. So Mrs. Lewis says, sprinkle the glittering frost powder upon the tree branches. It seems like, Mrs. Lewis, not to second guess, but if you'd wanted me to do that, I should have done that before I covered the whole thing with ornaments and tinsel. So I think what I'm gonna do is go kind of crazy and just put it on cotton, because that's supposed to be the snow part anyway, right? So I guess I'm supposed to attach, oh, I should put down a sheet. I'm always thinking. Oh, that's all up in the tinsel. Ew, dear. Ugh. Okay. Oh, this is a little frost powder on that glue. All right, we'll take off some of the molasses label. So, what did Benjamin Harrison do to royally anger his children? Did he crush glass and pour it all over their basement? No, he did not. He got married again. Not particularly soon. It was 1896 when he got married again. And his kids were actually not particularly annoyed that he was getting married. It was who he was marrying. Because he married Mary Dimmock, the one who had lived with them, the one who was his children's first cousin, the one who was 25 years younger than him. Now, they are not blood relation, so that means that it would be like me marrying Uncle Gary. That is kind of the reaction that these kids were having to him marrying their first cousin, who, by the way, was also their age. She was like 20-some days younger than Mamie Mary. The kids, Mamie and Russell, do not go to the wedding. There's only about like 30 people that do go to it. So they have this baby Elizabeth, who is 10 years younger than her niece and nephew, baby McKee and Mary Lodge McKee, these grandchildren from the White House. They're 10 years older than this new child of his, who is also their aunt. And when he died, just a few years later, he died in 1901 of pneumonia, I believe. They didn't go to the funeral. Mary Dimmock, the new wife, lives to be like 89 or something. She doesn't die until the late 1940s. And their daughter, Elizabeth, does very well. She grows up, she goes to law school, she becomes a lawyer. She starts a magazine called Cues from the News, which is investment tips for women. Mrs. Lewis says that under a brilliant light, the tree becomes a veritable creation of fairyland. Thank you so much for joining me for this entire year with the Vintage Magazine Project. It was a roller coaster adventure, and it's probably going to continue in some form. We will see. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas to all of you from all of us here at Adventures in Hostessville, which is basically just me.